You are listening to the Bright Life Podcast, all about ways to stay inspired, chase your dreams, and find more gratitude in the highs and lows of the journey. I'm your host, Jessica Johnson. I'm a business owner, a part-time digital nomad, a self-growth junkie, a believer in other big-hearted women, and am all about sharing tips, tricks, lessons learned, and encouragement so we can all live our biggest, brightest lives. You ready? Let's do this. Hello and welcome to today's episode. Today, I thought it would be fun to share with you a little part of an exercise that I did a few weeks ago that was so powerful. This is through Lacey Seitz, who is a mentor of mine and a coach. And I was on this call with a mastermind that I'm in for business. And I had not even realized, I should have, but we are approaching the end of the year already. Can you believe that? It has already been almost a year. We have 3 to 4 months left, and on this call, we got really clear about our goals and the things we were going to do to get there. And so I want to share just a little part of it, as much as I can squeeze into an episode for you, to take this time to just reflect and realize you've almost made it through another year in a global pandemic. Good for you. Amazing. Almost made it through another year with so much going on in the world. But there's still so much time if you want to get clear on what you want to have accomplished by the time 2022 is here. And so today I'm going to walk you through some journal prompts, some questions, some things to think about, and help guide you in how to make the most of the rest of this year. Okay? So the first thing to just be aware of is, where do you want to be when it's New Year's Eve and you're approaching a new year? Where do you want to be in areas like your health, your career, in starting a business maybe, or a side hustle, or a book, or another creative project? Even in relationships, where do you want to be? So those are just a few ideas, and maybe there's an area that instantly stands out to you that you want to focus on. I think in this exercise, it's appropriate to focus on one main thing, and then you can definitely apply it to the other areas as well. But what stands out to you for that one thing that you really want to have done by the end of the year? Got it? Got the area, kind of picturing what you want? The next step is to quantify it. So instead of it being this murky thing or this vague goal, go ahead and attach a number to it. So for example, if it's your health, do you want to be walking 10,000 steps a day? Do you want to improve some markers like your cholesterol or blood pressure? Is it a number for you that's related to weight, maybe gaining muscle, getting healthier? And then think about too, like if it's more of a thing like walking every day or drinking a gallon of water every day, is that every day, or is that like 6 days a week? Sometimes even meditation, I'll do this where maybe I give myself that one day of the week where if I'm going to, do it, I know that realistically I'm going to need one day to not, right? And so maybe that's the same with activity or going to the gym. Like, is that 3 or 4 days a week, or is that a 6 days a week, or is that an everyday commitment? So get really clear on the number side of it and the frequency. If it's a career, maybe it's something like you want a promotion by the end of the year, or you want to ask for a 5K raise. I don't know what your number would be or what relates to your career, but just get really clear on what that looks like. If it's starting a new creative endeavor, a business, a side hustle, a podcast, what does that mean? What is the action you will have taken by 2022? Is it signing up for a course or a coach and making that investment and drawing that line in the sand and saying, I'm doing this? Is it having submitted the LLC and more legal paperwork? Is it launching a website? Is it getting your first client? You don't have to name all of these things, but definitely name at least one thing that you for sure can zero in on. If it's the relationship, is it going on 3 dates, 5 dates, 1 date a month? What does it look like for you? That quantification can be so helpful because when I went through this exercise, at first it was really easy for me to say, oh, like this is what I want to accomplish by the end of the year. But when you really tie a number to it and you make kind of your stretch goal that you are saying out loud, this is what I'm going for, it just becomes more real. And it also gives you something to latch onto and apply this next question to. So the next thing that I want you to think about is you have kind of that area of your life, or maybe multiple ones, that you have your goals in for the end of the year. And you have exactly what that looks like. What I want you to think about is, what are you willing to do to get there? And what are you not willing to do? Because the truth is, you need to be really clear on that commitment to yourself. I thought it was really interesting to have it phrased this way and to realize that there were definitely things that I would do, and then to think about it and just ponder the things that I wouldn't necessarily do. For example, for me, I have some more business goals, right, that I'm going towards. And so for me, a lot of the things that I was willing to do would be things like getting more visible, like posting more on social media, like sharing the highs and the lows of the journey, just bringing people into it versus almost just working on it behind the scenes and then coming out, once I figured it all out, but really bringing people into the journey. And so for me, that's looked like sharing blog posts about my journey and recording podcast episodes and videos, and all of those things for me fell in that bucket of I'm willing to do this. On the side of what am I not willing to do, for me, there were things like I'm not willing to live stream my life. That's just not what I want out of my social media. I'm sure it could make great results, and it does for a lot of people out there. But for me, I just like a certain level of freedom and privacy in my day and not necessarily feeling like I'm always on my phone. So that's just like a little example of what are you willing to do, what feels good, and what are you not willing to do? And it can be the same with all those categories we talked about, like even with your health, like what are you willing to do? For me, it comes to mind like my wedding and getting, feeling really healthy and good for the big day. Like I was willing to eat whole foods and to move my body every day and to feel really good going into my wedding, but I was not willing to count calories, to severely restrict food, to just go with that level of intensity that I had before on health challenges. I really just wanted to respect my own body in the sense that whatever it felt like was a healthy pace for it, and whatever it looked like on that wedding day, knowing that I was still living my life, but I was nourishing it versus restricting it. That for me was that line of I'm willing to be really healthy and attentive to my body and care and just move and eat well, but I'm not willing to add that level of restriction to it. And so for me, that's just such a helpful thing no matter what your goal is. And you kind of create this freedom within that where you've really solidified, here's what I'm committed to, here's how I'm going to approach it, here's how I'm not going to. And you can, get really honest with yourself. And maybe you'll have some revelations around oh, I did not realize that all this time I've been beating myself up for not doing that thing, but that's just not something I'm willing to do. Or maybe you want to push yourself a little more and you see this list of things you're not willing to do, but your list of things you're willing to do to get to your goal is pretty small. And you're like, okay, I'm going to really need to look at these things and see is there anything else I'm willing to do to hit that stretch goal or to drive things over the limit to reach my goal. So it can be really kind of just motivating and illuminating, I think, to look at those things as a list in black and white and decide which side of the line your willingness falls under or your non-willingness. And there's nothing wrong either. Other people may have a different way of going about it that's right for them and a different level of intensity. And that's great too. It's not saying that they're wrong because they are willing to do things you aren't. It's just finding that balance for you and being really, really honest about it. Okay? And so that's the essence of it, is it's what is your goal? What does it look like? What's the accurate number that you want to attach to it, or the result, even if it's not a number? What are you willing to do? What are you not willing to do? And then the last piece is something that I learned from Tony Robbins, and that is to take action today to lock that in. And if you have just decided that you are willing to do these certain things to reach that goal, just check in with yourself and make sure you are. What can you do today that is a demonstration of that? And what Tony Robbins says is that he never closes a book, leaves a conference, learns something new without applying a little piece of it to his life. And he really feels that that's a reason that he has been able to make such incredible strides in his life and to impact so many people and to grow his businesses so rapidly, is that he's not just churning through all this content, this information, this inspiration without actually applying it. And so that's the other piece. It's one, it's just getting that momentum going. Two, it's a good test of how true you're being if you're really willing to do those things. And in many cases, it gets you over the hump, right? It tests you a little bit in the sense that it gets you a little uncomfortable. But once you do that thing, you have that momentum and you have that locked into your body and to your emotions where you feel like you can keep going. And so you don't want to wait for another week or another month to do it, because then you've already lost your momentum again, and you're going to have to do this whole exercise again with a much shortened timeline. So thinking through those things, what do you want it to look like? What's the actual stretch goal that you want to apply there? What are you willing to do and not to get there? And what can you do today to actually take action and move forward and make progress on your dream? I found that to be such an interesting exercise. If you spend some time with these questions, journal through them maybe, just apply them to the area of your life that is most pressing. I'm not doing this for every area of my life. I feel like sometimes I will go in that way and it just becomes overwhelming and it's hard to make progress on any of them. So choose that area that's most meaningful and send me a message. I would love to know. I'd love to cheer you on in your journey, and we can do the same for each other, and just make the most of these next 3 months. The other thing that I would offer is it's been a year, right? Like there's been a lot going on this year and a lot to navigate. So if you're in a season where maybe your goal isn't as quote unquote goaly, but it's more like incorporating self-care and rest, I think that is honestly honorable as well. Like maybe it's not even a goal, but it's more like a goal around making sure you take one day of the week to truly rest, or 15 minutes at the end of the night without your phone. And that's the practice that you cultivate, and that's the thing you measure. That too is going to make such a difference by the time that you get that down for 3 months and you enter the new year with ending the night on a restful note, or having 30 minutes to yourself in the morning, or just taking a walk or a bath at the end of the day. That is still something worthwhile. So don't get tricked into this feeling or turned off on the idea that like you just can't handle one more thing to add. Think about if there's something really nourishing you could do if that's the place that you're in, because there's both seasons, right? Where you're really gung-ho, and then there's ones where you just don't have it in you to add one more thing. So just make sure to honor your body and your season of life as well, and know that your goal can be anything. No one's looking at this, no teacher's grading it. So go ahead and just do what truly is going to make the biggest, best, most loving impact in your life, versus using this as another way to pressure or constrain yourself. All right? I hope this is helpful, and I hope it makes for an amazing exercise and rest of the year. And I can't wait to continue the conversation with you every week until then. Thank you so much for listening in. If you loved this episode, it would mean so much to me if you share it on Instagram stories and tag me so I can personally thank you for helping get the message out. I am so grateful to be on this journey with you. Until next time, talk to you soon.